What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Curt and Bob Show. He's Curt. I'm Bob. For you Spotify listeners, we got, you know, me and Curtis went to the Premier League game in Atlanta the other week, wearing the repping the hat right
For
now.
sure.
Um, if this goes on YouTube, not sure if it will, but you guys will see us repping it. But anyways, enough about soccer. Let's get into some football here, Curtis. We
True.
got a lot of drama going on this week, man. A lot of drama going on. Some
Yep.
updates, stuff about Jonathan Taylor. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already seen already. But
hmm
Curtis, um, just a little bit of news here. You got Daniel Hunter with a new deal. Talk about that a little bit.
1 year, 20 million for a D end. That's a hefty price. And I know the Falcons were front runners apparently to get him before this deal. I had a friend who's very plugged into the Falcons and very big Falcons fan, and he was telling me, I kid you not, I think it was Friday night we were playing a game, and he's like, dude, if Falcons get Daniel Hunter, like that's insane addition to the Calais Campbell, all, and then that morning I wake up Saturday morning, Daniel Hunter is now happy with the Vikings, signs 1 year, $20 million deal. I sent him a screenshot. I was like, damn, sorry Blake, that was quick lived. So yeah, Vikings retain their fantastic pass rusher there. And Daniel Hunter, and like we've talked about on the show before, Brian Flores, the new defensive coordinator of that team. That defense is going to look a lot different this year after being 32nd in a few categories last year. I definitely expect the Vikings to make a turnaround here. So I'm sure that deal is a hey, just bear with us and let's try to do something special this year, and we'll reevaluate either free agency or a new contract next year, right? So good deal there, I thought. And then, in injury news too, Bob, some kind of big names going down in training camp here right at the start. We got Joe Burrow, who, after watching the video, it looked like Achilles. It's been reported as a calf injury. And Zach Taylor, their head coach, has said several weeks. So that is super broad. Obviously, it's training camp. You don't have to give a questionable or probable, right? You don't have to report injuries like you do during the season for your opponents to prepare. So, what did you think about the Burrow injury there? Definitely a spooky one you don't want to see.
Yeah, I mean, not especially for a guy of his caliber, man.
Yeah.
If it's going to be something that's nagging, obviously it could have effects that last,
hmm
a long time, his mobility and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I don't
hmm
think he'll lose, any hop in his step really. And I think we'll get, normal Joe Burrow at the end of the day.
We all hope.
So, yeah, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I think, just keep an eye on it. Could be something that lingers though. That's I think what I would be concerned about.
For
So
sure, yeah, and I actually had a friend who had their fantasy earlier last week. So definitely, if you're, I know a lot of you guys are listening for the fantasy football during the summer here. So Burrow definitely, I would say, goes down a couple rounds just for the fact that they're being so vague about it with several weeks.
yeah,
I don't like the sound of it, and I hope it is a better scenario than what the Dolphins got with Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey covering Tyreek Hill in one-on-one drills. Unfortunately, Tyreek is just that guy. He's breaking his own teammates' ankles out there, and unfortunately, Jalen Ramsey goes down with a meniscus tear on a route in practice. So you hate to see that. He got surgery immediately, day after. It's worst case, he's going to be back by December, and Ramsey actually came out today saying surgery went great, everything's looking right. A few days after the fact, so he really plans on beating that timeline. Um, I would say, like, definitely a blow to the Dolphins' defensive backfield. However, on top of Jalen Ramsey, there's a lot of competing corners in that DB room, as not to mention a few coming back off injury from last year. So still have full confidence in the Dolphins D. And Jalen Ramsey, take as much time as you need, my guy. We just need you for the playoffs. That's if he can't make it to the start of December, no worries. Just come in the new year. Let this Dolphins team kind of ride this out to the playoffs here. Need a big season. This roster is huge. The coaching staff, insane. Very, very optimistic for the season here. So hate to see Ramsey down, but I am fully in no rush back mode on that one. That's for sure.
Yeah, no need to be.
Oh, yeah. Meniscus, too. So, honestly, dodged a bullet because some people were saying it looked like ACL on the field. So, that's 2 bullet dodges, honestly, because that's Joe Burrow. The people who attend the training camp that are live tweeting it, they thought Burrow was Achilles, and the people live tweeting Ramsey thought it was ACL. So, 2 kind of bullet dodges there. Both players still injured for a, inconspicuous time frame here. But it sounds like both of them will be back this season. That time frame totally unknown, but we are approaching. We are less than, I believe we're 38 days away now, 37 days away. So, man, the season is coming up quick. So, with that's kind of all the injury and contract news. Dalvin Cook still TBD. Ezekiel Elliott still TBD. They're both flying around doing their due diligence on everyone, I guess.
NFL is so weird about that type of stuff, man.
It is.
They really are.
It is.
Like 2 prime running backs that are just like, who knows if they'll get signed?
Yeah.
Dalvin probably, Zeke is like, dude, I don't know what's going on. I know Zeke's not like an AB type of player where he's like mentally just not there, but like it just feels like we see guys like Antonio Brown that just like dip out of the league for no reason, like in their
Le'Veon
prime.
Le'Veon Bell, that's another best comparison there when he lost so much money skipping a year because he thought that he was going to get some Patrick Mahomes type deal, and the NFL's just like, sorry, man, we don't pay running backs like that.
Yeah, just so weird, dude.
Oh yeah,
so weird. But
it's a weird one, but hopefully they get it rolling here sometime soon, and then we'll at least know. At the end of the day, I'm sure the 2 of them have enough experience under their belt where, their only learning curve is going to be the playbook, right? Is, okay, when do I run here? And they'll pick that up. So running backs, you can definitely plug and play much quicker than, per se, a quarterback or even a wide receiver. So hopefully we get their situation resolved. In some kind of quarterback head coaching news, we got some good, juicy drama here, first of the year, pretty much. So Sean Payton kind of forgot he was a head coach, thought he was a Fox analyst still for a second. He came out in a Broncos press conference and absolutely dragged the Broncos front office and coaching staff from last year's Broncos team. He was, posed a question about Russell Wilson from last year. A reporter posed it as, oh, are you worried about Russell Wilson? Looked like he declined last year, da-da-da-da-da. Sean Payton went on to quite the rant here about the Broncos' whole situation last year and called Nathaniel Hackett's coaching jobs one of the worst he's seen in NFL history, which is, ouch, dude. That is brutal. It's tough to say. I can't sit, Urban Meyer takes the cake in my eyes for the worst. You could definitely argue Hackett last year wasn't, it wasn't great, but, the whole, as they say, the whole team loses, the whole team wins, right? So you can't just pin it on one guy. He since, took those comments back, said he was still wearing his analyst hat. Those comments were out of line, but Rodgers had a lot to say about it in a quick little interview, saying that Sean Payton was showing how insecure he was to speak about another man with kids and everything, and to keep his coach's name out of your mouth, doing the best Will Smith, keep my wife's name out your mouth. That's exactly what Aaron Rodgers did with Sean Payton, is saying, keep my boy Nathaniel Hackett out of your mouth. So quite the crazy display here of comments for the summer, Bob. What sides do you see here? How do you sum it up? Because this came out of left field.
Yeah, I mean, the comments, I don't think Sean Payton's wrong. However, I don't think, like he said, he still had his Fox hat on.
Yeah.
He's in the league now. He's a coach. They got to have, I mean.
They're sitting on meetings together,
Yeah. Like, it's awkward, dude. Yeah. Like, if you're on, you're on camera, you're part of the media, like you get a little slack because you're like allowed to say some kind of crazy outlandish things. Mm-hmm. I say outlandish. I agree with what Sean Payton said, but like, in his shoes now as a head coach, like you just can't say things like that. And he's not notorious in the past to be saying things like that anyway. So
yeah, that's what was so crazy.
I'm slack here, and like I get where Rodgers is coming from, but Rodgers is like,
He's defending his
I
boy.
just feel,
Yeah.
yeah, but like, I feel like,
he definitely
yeah,
he definitely took a sharp hit at Payton for sure. He got
yeah,
pretty.
he didn't have to go that
Yeah,
far,
he,
but
he got
like,
he got pretty riled up, but they're just exchanging blows, I guess, at the end of the day, and we'll we'll see what happens. But yeah, it was quite the drama spill there for a minute. Reminds you that the NFL is close, right? It reminds you, oh yeah, here comes the season. Like here we're starting to get into this because it's not going to be bad. I'm looking real quick at the schedule. Doesn't look. Oh, what is it? Yeah, Jets at Broncos, October 8th. There's your storyline now. That is now a much more exciting 4 o'clock game on October 8th there. So we'll have Rodgers, Sean Payton, Nathaniel Hackett, everyone on the field. And they can figure it out there, right? At the end of the day, they'll figure it out. Just some comments going back and forth. Everything will be fine. The more interesting storyline that, if the last one came out of left field, I would say this one came from Mars. Jonathan Taylor, out the blue, I want to trade from the Indianapolis Colts. Came through, I believe it was Thursday last week. Very random after seeing the coaches and everyone kind of back him up this offseason. I've seen a few comments about him like, oh yeah, he's our guy. We're excited to have him back from injury, da-da-da. And now he comes out and he's like, see ya, I want out of here. So Jonathan Taylor must not like what he's seeing at camp, or he just wants his new deal. I know a big part of it is the deal. Jim Irsay, who, Colts owner, he has a tough time. He's put his foot in his mouth a few times, we'll say, in his career. And he had a quote about the Jonathan Taylor, trade request and, whole drama about it. First quote is, we love Jonathan. We need Jonathan. Hope is that he has an outstanding year and we're good as a team. You get this next contract done. That's the hope. We think the world of him as a person. So just, whatever, just gassing him up, trying to say, hey, man, come on, we want you here. But then Jim Irsay went on, I believe it was a day or two later on Friday, and said, if I die tonight, if I and Jonathan Taylor die tonight, if I die tonight and Jonathan Taylor is out of the league, no one's going to miss us. The league goes on. We know that the NFL rolls on. It doesn't matter who comes and who goes, and it's a privilege to be a part of it. So, Irsay, maybe having some reflection on some mushrooms or something fun that night, and just tweeted something, said something absolutely absurd. I kind of get what he's saying, but it's a bit morbid and it's a little extra, I feel like, for a running back situation. Yeah, it's just a weird comment to make with it. What do you think about it?
I was talking to Colin and Jared about it. Jared read me the quote, and I was like,
"Yep,
what?"
It's crazy.
And I was so confused. I had to have him read it to me 3 times because I didn't get it. Like, I didn't understand what he was saying. I was like, okay, somebody help me understand what he is saying about Jonathan Taylor. And he was basically like, Jared was like, he basically just doesn't, like, he doesn't care about Jonathan Taylor. Like,
that's what it sounds like, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's just so weird. I still don't really understand it. Like, if he's going to, like,
on the heels of gassing him up too,
right.
It's just on the heels of Jonathan, we need you, you're our guy, and then he just says, oh, if he's out of the league and I die, then everyone's gonna forget about us. It's like, well,
like, why does he have to talk about like killing him, like, or himself dying?
Yeah,
like, what do we?
Yeah,
it just didn't make any sense really to me.
It's and some people, he's only 64 too. I've definitely heard of situations where people get to that 80 and 90-year-old category. You make morbid jokes all the time, right? Because you're like, hey, I'm 90 something, what's what's it? I've heard those stories before.
Any day now. Could
yeah,
be any day.
oh, exactly, stuff like that. But Irsay 64, he's not on death's door by any means, I would say, but he really just kind of came out, so maybe there's more going on there, but it felt a little more personal to him, like as personal about himself as it did Jonathan Taylor. So super weird quote. Don't really know how to take it, and honestly, if there's any Colts fans listening, last thing you want to hear, now you're really banking on Anthony Richardson and Michael Pittman there.
Good luck with that, bro.
Because they lost
All I'm gonna say.
Nyheim Hines last year as well to the Bills, who he got injured this offseason as well. But looking at their depth chart, they got Zach Moss, who couldn't really get it together in Buffalo, and then Deion Jackson, who I am not too familiar. I know he's been a backup with the Colts for a little bit. He's looking at the stats: 68 carries for 200 yards and a touchdown last year. So they definitely don't have any, I guess, suitors right away, but it's a next man up league, so you never know. Deion Jackson could be the name we're talking about in week 8 of the fantasy football season because he's putting up numbers, right? That's just how the NFL goes, but it's a very weird.
It makes
spot.
the running back situation, like, literally had a breakdown on the show literally last week about running backs and who I'm going to draft, and it does not make it any easier.
Oh, yeah.
It does not make it. It just makes things more confusing. So
Yep. But hey, lucky for you, you got the 4 spot.
On a rant
Yeah.
about yeah. You want to hear me go on a rant about drafting a quarterback in the number 4 overall pick? Go check out last week's episode.
Definitely. We did our drawing for fantasy this just the other day. Let the wheel decide, because the wheel is always just. Shout out to wheelofnames.com. Put it in. You just,
Curtis with a phenomenal production on the with the music and the
But-
sound effects.
yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
But it's on the YouTube channel, Curt Bob Show YouTube channel. You can check out the draft order selection video, 4 minutes. It's pretty funny. But Bob got the 4th selection there, so you're guaranteed pretty much, some of these top guys that we've been talking about, right? There's definitely some pretty clear takers there. I am the 8th pick, so I would say, Jonathan Taylor right now, I don't even think you touch him in the first 2 or 3, right? If you don't know where he's going to play, you don't know if he's, I don't even know how his injury has been coming. I assume fine, but, people, you can assume all the time, and you get it wrong, then, you're the one paying for it. So I don't want to touch Jonathan Taylor with a 10-foot pole until this contract is resolved and I know that he's healthy. So I'm fully avoiding JT, and that's one big name running back out of the running that I think would have, if he was healthy and happy on a new deal, that he would no question be in the top 10 of almost every draft still, because people are gonna buy into the everyone, Cooper Kupp, when he came back from his ACL injury, right? He was the number 1 receiver. So we've seen it many times. People come back from injury and they're fantastic still. Joe Burrow, another great name. ACL came back amazing. So the names go on and on. But yeah, that kind of wraps our drama there for for this year. We are
Quite a bit of it.
Yeah, we are
week.
definitely getting close to the season. That's for sure. Hall of Fame game this Thursday. I'm actually excited to watch some really mediocre preseason football here as we come up to the season. But with that, me and Bob are going to hop in here to just a fantasy wide receiver episode here. We're going to go in depth because all we've talked about receivers so far is Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill, which, if you lived under a rock your whole life, you came out from under a rock the night of your draft, you would see both of them up there as, your 1, 2, or 3 options. So it's not making any crazy statement with them. So we're going to go a little deeper in the draft. Maybe some of these guys you'll get in the, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, however low. And then we're also going to do a Mr. Irrelevant. Who's a receiver that you could see dropping, undrafted or to the 16th round that you actually might want to pick up and give a chance. So with that, Bob, what's your first receiver here, depth wise? Who you really like on this one?
Yeah, so a guy who I think he'll not slip, but he's not going to go, first round or maybe even second round. I think he at the end of the season, people are going to be saying he should have gone higher. Is Garrett Wilson. So
Fair.
Garrett Wilson on the Jets. I would be, I think it's safe to pick him in the second round by all means. I think he could, even at the end of the year, like I said, he could have been looking retrospectively, could have been worthy of a first rounder. I think, Rodgers in that situation there, he had a great season last year. I think the Jets are getting a little bit more dangerous. You never know. It's a gamble though, because you never know with Aaron Rodgers who his guy is going to be.
True.
So and it just seems like last year, Christian Watson was his guy halfway through the season. The first
Yeah.
half it
Yeah.
wasn't.
13
So it was
weeks
like,
in. Yeah.
yeah. So it's just like you never know what can happen, and who he's gonna pick as his go-to guy. But I think Garrett Wilson, I don't see how you. I just think he'll
Yeah.
be a good value pick in the second round. Like I think that'll be a phenomenal pick in the second round. So.
Yep. Yeah, it has been since, I would honestly say, since Rodgers won a Super Bowl that he had a receiver of the caliber that Garrett Wilson showed last year, at least when Rodgers played with Jordy Nelson, Donald Driver, Greg Jennings. Garrett Wilson is a quick boy. He, won Offensive Rookie of the Year last year, even though it was a little controversial, just a tiny bit controversial with the voting system. And Kenneth Walker had more first place votes, but Garrett Wilson had more votes overall. But, that aside, he's still, he was a phenomenal player. And that was with the Jets team last year with a rotating door of, Mike White, Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, you name it. It was everybody and Joe Schmo throwing for the Jets last year. So I like that pick a lot. Rodgers is definitely the best quarterback Garrett Wilson will have ever played with. So I'm sure he'll be putting on a show for him. And so yeah, I like the pick, and you're right. He's gonna slip out of the first round for sure, and who knows where if how crazy people get on quarterbacks or running backs in the second round. Like he could really slip to the third if you let him. So that's a good one to have on the radar for sure. My guy, and I think he's gonna go a little deeper. Personally, I might be looking to take him earlier on because I'm very high on him this year, especially seeing what this quarterback did with such a mid-tier receiving core last year, and that's Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, Trevor Lawrence last year made Christian Kirk, look like a top 5, top 10, very serviceable receiver, and no hate to Christian Kirk at all, but he's not your Justin Jefferson or even your Jamar Chase or Tyreek. You know what I mean? So you got Calvin Ridley now, who it's not like he's coming off injury. He's coming off suspension. He's stayed in shape. He's been planning to get back. He's been on the ball, appealed as soon as he could, got back in the league, and he was on a roster as soon as possible. So he could be really, really dangerous with Trevor Lawrence. Like this is going to be sweet because you still have to worry about Christian Kirk. You still got to worry about Evan Ingram, and you still have to worry about Zay Jones, right? So Ridley is going to see some single coverage, and if we learned anything about Ridley and single coverage in Atlanta, it's that he's just wide freaking open. So I love Ridley this year in fantasy, and he's definitely someone I've got on my radar and coming in that third, fourth, fifth round for sure.
Yeah. Ridley's a little bit deeper than what I went with Garrett Wilson.
For sure.
But yeah, I think he was somebody who I was looking at too, like later rounds, or not necessarily later rounds, kind of mid rounds, because you never know. I mean, he could go crazy and could be that guy for them.
Yep.
And you get him, and like he could be wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 for you, and you get him middle rounds. So I think that's a really good pick. But number 2 for me, a guy who I think will get some pretty good value. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of pivoting here on a dime. So, oh my gosh, I don't know who I want to go with here.
Honorable mentions are allowed. You could.
Yeah. I think a guy, because I don't want to pick. It's got to be somebody deeper than Garrett Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
So I think. You know what? I'm gonna go with our boy Jahan Dotson.
Love it.
Got to.
Love it.
Got to go with Jahan Dotson. He'll go later rounds for sure. But I don't love Sam Howell at the quarterback position there, so we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's a new era in Washington. I think they're thinking about maybe changing the name again.
Bro, if they do that.
With the new sale and everything like that. It's going to be a new era. I think Terry McLaurin is probably going to be number one guy, but Jahan Dotson, this will be year 2 for him. I think he'll be used decently. But keep an eye out for him. Keep an eye out for him this season. I think he'll take some strides, and you may be starting him some weeks, if not maybe all weeks. Who knows?
Yeah.
But,
no, absolutely.
yeah.
I like the pick, and you look at his game too with Sam Howell last year against the Cowboys, a game that the Cowboys were supposed to steamroll. Commanders smoked the Cowboys January 8th, 26-6. Jahan Dotson, 4 targets, 3 catches, 72 yards from Sam Howell, who got thrown in there after not really touching the field at all. Now you got Eric Bieniemy as your offensive coordinator as well. We're going to see. We're going to find out a lot about Bieniemy and these Commanders this year. Everything has gone their way so far this offseason. They've got Schneider out. They've got a young roster still that, is primed to compete. And, you can really argue that this, NFC is very, very friendly for wild card teams this year, I would say. There are a lot of opportunities across the board in the NFC, a lot of question marks. So the Commanders could very well, sneak in there, especially if the Cowboys and the Giants at all underperform from last year. Then they could, sneak up. I don't see the Eagles taking that much of a step back, but you never know there either. They lost a lot of coaches here. But I like Dotson. I like Dotson a lot. Terry McLaurin, that takes away the double. You need a unit of receivers to be a good receiver. You can't just be a single guy because, like we saw with Justin Jefferson in the playoffs last year, you just get triple covered almost. So it is, it's a good pick, and he's, friend of the show, one-way friendship. We want to be friends with him, but hey, we're big Dotson fans here on the Curt Bob show for sure. So, I've got another young guy here coming in at my number 2. And that's someone else who I think is going to benefit from what I just mentioned, and that is the triple coverage on Justin Jefferson. That's Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, rookie out of Pitt/USC. I mentioned Pitt because he played with Kenny Pickett. You could argue he helped Kenny Pickett get drafted in the first round that year because he had 17 touchdown catches, over 1,000 yards. Then he went to USC, with Caleb Williams, and still performed not to the degree at Pitt, but he's definitely in a more talented room in USC. So there's more opportunity for everyone else. Where Pitt, he was the and only guy. So I love Jordan Addison for the Vikings here. Kirk Cousins, he's got everyone. Everybody's on the Kirk train after this new QB show. I still need to watch it. I'm slacking because I really want to watch it, but I've only seen the first episode still. But even that, I loved Kirk just in that moment. So a lot of people are going to be high on the Vikings here coming into the season. They've got some good PR. They got a good young, roster now that you trade out Adam Thielen for a speedster like Addison. I've definitely got high hopes for Jordan Addison coming in here. So he's my number 2 as well. And he's definitely a deeper guy. Like he's going to be, maybe you're 8, 9, 10, if not a little bit lower. We'll see how deep the receiver class goes this year and how quickly they fly off the board in fantasy. But yeah, that's my number 2 guy. I like JJ taking some distraction away from Jordan Addison and opening it up for him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I like the Jordan Addison pick too, and I was thinking along those lines here for my 3rd spot. Maybe honorable mention here, like maybe a Quentin Johnson, something like that.
Yeah.
However, I'm gonna go with a guy who is. You saw him kind of revitalize his game a little bit in Kansas City. Honorable mention to Sky Moore, but I'm going Kadarius Toney with my 3rd spot.
Love it.
Who is going to catch the football for the Chiefs? It's going to be Kadarius Toney, and obviously Travis Kelce. I mean, that's the obvious choice.
Yep.
But who's going to catch balls for Patrick Mahomes? It's going to be Kadarius Toney. I got Kadarius Toney with this 3rd one. Honestly, I may want to switch him and Jahan Dotson. I think I slept on Kadarius Toney in that putting him in that 2 spot. But yeah, honestly, I love. I value pick.
Yeah, Toney is a guy I think everyone listening will maybe need to reach on too, because everyone once you start getting down that draft board, right? Everyone's got their first 5 rounds planned out, and you get your players, and then it starts getting lower and lower, and you're like, okay, let's start scrolling down the list. Let's see who's gone still there. When you see a Chiefs uniform in Kadarius Toney, and you remember what he did at the back half of the last season for the Chiefs, people are going to snipe him for sure. And you're right, it's an amazing depth pick because he is. I was looking on the ESPN list. He is down there. Like he is way down there. Let's see.
The Chiefs don't have any receivers that are like up on fantasy boards, and it's like
he's way down
They
there.
have the best quarterback in the league.
Yep.
Who is he going to throw the football to?
Ranked 166 overall overall players. So Guys. He's down there. This was a good pick. Bob is trying to help you out here, buddy. Because honorable mention, like you said, to Sky Moore for sure. He's gonna get involved after what he did in the Super Bowl. But you could argue Kadarius and Toney and Sky Moore, like they are a bit more on the up and up than I would say a Valdez Scantling, right? Who's kind of been in the league for a little bit now. He'll still get his touches, but he's not going to be putting up 20 points on you anytime. Toney and Sky Moore both have that 20-point potential, any given moment. And Toney last year, he didn't play half the season. Got traded or got acquired by the Chiefs from the Giants there, and came in hot. Then he got injured like 2 games after he played, and then he kind of finished the season a little slow, but showed up in the playoffs. So I really like Kadarius Toney as well. He's definitely a name to watch for. And my next pick, this one is pretty deep. This is pretty deep, but it's a guy I've been following since he came out of the draft, and have been really pulling for him to, go through what he went through, and that is John Mechie. I got to have John Mechie on there. Brandon Cooks is no more in Houston. His competition is Nico Collins, Bob Jones from the fire department, Tyron Smith from the insurance department. Like this is John Mechie's offense. I've already been seeing the PFF videos, the Texans social media videos of Mechie hasn't lost a step. He's out here, he's fully recovered from leukemia there. He is back in the saddle, absolutely frying at training camp. People are loving him. And CJ Stroud, man, like he can't throw the ball to Will Anderson. That was a great 1-2 pick by the Texans in the draft this year, but Will Anderson isn't catching any balls, so CJ's got to find somebody. Definitely, Tank Dell. We talked about him. Nathaniel Dell, he's out of Houston, got drafted by Houston. He'll be involved in that offense for sure, but he is, I would say, he's more of a Mr. Irrelevant pick. Like, definitely will go last round or undrafted, Nathaniel Dell there. So Mechie, he's my guy. I think you can snipe him in the 12, 13, 14 round. When everyone else is picking a kicker, you can scoop up Mechie because, I don't think he'll have any issue beating out what the Texans currently have on that depth chart. Brandon Cooks is out of there and in Dallas now. That's honorable mention of Brandon Cooks. I did almost use Brandon Cooks here because he is in a much better situation now as well. However, McCarthy's calling the plays. Yeah.
And I think it's kind of a loaded wide receiver room there. So I think
the Cowboys
things more difficult.
They're going to be interesting to watch this year for sure because Mike McCarthy, he's going to run the ball a lot with Tony Pollard and co. Like, you can't just make Tony Pollard your 34 carries or you're going to burn him out. So especially all the receivers they have, they'll figure it out. That's the only reason I didn't put Brandon Cooks in this list is I cannot trust the play calling and the operation that is the Cowboys offense this year until I see it for my own eyes, because on paper it looks like 2 guys from 2010 are trying to, get the band back together, and it's Schottenheimer, right? I think it's Schottenheimer and McCarthy. They're the 2. So, some old boys there, some, run the football boys there, and we'll see. We'll see. That's all I'll say about the Cowboys offense is we will see. I'll believe it when I see it. So, with that, Bob, who do you have as your Mr. Irrelevant? Who do you see slipping all the way out and someone you want to grab? Looks like you got a pick ready. I see it in your face.
I am thrilled for this pick. Absolutely thrilled for this pick. Because he's finally going to, he's back from injury. He's going to play some football. He was a top 15 pick not this past draft, but the one before.
Wow.
He was hurt his whole entire rookie season. Out of Alabama, Jameson Williams. The reason he's Mr. Irrelevant is
Yep.
because he's suspended for the first 6 games of the season.
Yep.
After that, he's going to go crazy. Him and Jared Goff
Yep.
have a good connection going, allegedly. And so nobody's going to touch him because he's suspended. And that obviously they have Amon-Ra St. Brown, but like their offense was very surprisingly good last season. And I think he's going to get his catches here in this upcoming season. Keep an eye on him. You could get him as a free agent and stash him because
he'll be scary to touch for sure, because that suspended for first 6 games, that's someone you want to put on your radar and not draft, right? We'll see. Yeah, we'll see if he gets his flowers, but you're right. Like, he's right. I'm looking at the, what ESPN's default here. He's right down there with John Mechie, like, Marvin, some guys that are definitely going to be some fringe picks here.
I just don't think the reason I seriously think he may go undrafted in basically all the leagues because of his suspension, and that's why I think he's going to be Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah, because that's only 12 weeks of play you're getting out of. Well, not even, because a lot of fantasy doesn't run to week 18 now. So and shoot, I mean, if you're 0-6, then you're probably not hitting the playoffs. So man, you could only have him for like 6 games. So you're right. The suspended tag will be there. And he'll be a great pickup. Maybe week 3, snipe him up if nobody drafts him there. But Jameson Williams, he'll be a name to watch for sure, because I mean, he caught. Let me see. Last year he had 1 catch for 41 yards and a touchdown. But that's because of, obviously, he was out the whole season, injured, and then just couldn't get it rolling there. He had 3 targets in a week 17 game, no catches, but then a carry for 40 yards. So he had 40 yards receiving and 40 yards rushing last year.
That could be a versatile player.
Yeah.
Samuel reincarnated.
Oh yeah, literally. with the touchdown there. So yeah, he's gonna slip. You hate to see the gambling suspensions, but NFL, they do got to figure it out, because I remember him specifically. He bet on an Alabama game, which would have been fine, but he bet on a Bama game in the team facility. So because he was in the team facility, that is a huge no-go suspension, right? So the NFL will figure it out, because their biggest sponsor now, it feels like, is Caesars Sportsbook. They're leaning into it as an organization for sure, the NFL. So they're going to need to clear up this whole gambling issue with the players, because there are multiple that are facing suspension this year. A lot of players that are going to be missing a couple games due to it. So we will see what happens there. And I'll go into my Mr. Irrelevant on this one. And it's a guy, I've talked about it a little bit in the past here. I like him better than his counterpart, who had much better stats than him in college this past season. And that's Cedric Tillman from Tennessee. Give me Cedric Tillman from Tennessee. Hyatt, he's a vert guy, straight line type runner. The only reason I'm scared of Jalen Hyatt as a receiver this year is I have been a victim of a Kenny Stills in the past. These receivers that they either have 2 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown, or absolutely nothing. And that's what I'm hoping Hyatt, I still like Hyatt, but I hope he does not become that. That's what he was at Tennessee. Let's not get it twisted. He ran some curls, but that was where he did his damage, was in the vertical route. So yeah, so when people see him on the field, that Giants roster too, that's another reason I'm kind of avoiding Hyatt here, is the Giants offensive depth chart. It's very weird. They're getting a lot of players back, but a lot of unproven players. Your Sterling Shepard, your Darius Slayton, who've been there forever. They've got Paris Campbell in the offseason. They got Isaiah Hodgins. They got Wan'Dale Robinson coming back from injury, who I actually liked a lot the previous year, rookie out of Kentucky, or he'll be second year now. But Hyatt, he's in a busy depth chart there, so I don't love him, and that's why I love Tillman, because he's at the Browns. They're looking at Amari Cooper, And another receiver, David Bell out of Purdue. So he'll be a sophomore as well. That's like your 1 and 2 in Cleveland. So Cedric Tillman, he can come out here, make his case right off the bat. 6'3", 215, 225. He's a big receiver. He's an NFL built receiver, and he ran all the routes at Tennessee in his time and was extremely consistent. The only reason he didn't pop off the page more last year was due to his I believe his hand or a foot injury that he had all last season in college. So that's another big reason why Hyatt was getting the production he was, because their best or second best guy, if you want to say, Tillman, was out. So I love Tillman coming into this year with the Browns. Deshaun Watson, now a full season removed from all his drama. We'll see if he can get the football back on the page here. Amari Cooper, honorable mention to him just for the list. I thought about it, but I think that's a little too easy. Obviously, Amari Cooper's awesome. Nobody nobody debates that. So that's my final for the sleeper there.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, you never know with these guys, but especially these sleeper picks. They're gambles. It's for fun. It's for funsies. Honorable mention to Mac Hollins. Apparently the dude is
I saw that. Oh my!
And he eats with his bare hands. And Kyle Pitts said that if you eat spaghetti with your bare hands, that's gross and that's weird. So we'll see how that goes with Mac Hollins. But yeah,
former Dolphin. He's the receiver of the Fitzpatrick helmet catch. Fun fact, Matt Collins. That was him on the receiving end when Fitzpatrick's got his head ripped off while throwing the ball 40 yards downfield. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Only time will tell, Curtis. Yep. But until then, we'll leave you guys with that. Take our advice. Or not.
Or don't.
Whatever.
Or do the opposite.
Whatever. Whatever. I'll just tell you I told you so at the end of the year.
If you're in our fantasy league listening to this, my dad's probably listening to this. Don't take any of my picks. Those are mine. Trademarked. Can't have them. So yeah, we'll come back at you guys probably next week here. I'm sure some more headline drama, will be in there. We're getting close. Maybe a little Hall of Fame game talk next week. See, just talk about good to see football being slung around again. Maybe a highlight or two, who knows. But we will definitely catch you guys soon. Fantasy and football is fast approaching. So, buckle in, because the beautiful 8-month journey is about to begin, and it's the best. It's the best every year. Couldn't trade it for anything. So we will catch you guys next week, and see you then.
Adios.